What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie. Just drank a bunch of cold stuff and my tongue is still numb. I have two more shows today from Frank Zappa's Winter 1976 tour. We are currently, if this was a baseball season, we are in the dog days of August right now. Playoff lineups pretty much been set. There are a couple players will still be cut before the very end. We're just kind of like trudging our way through. We have a Germany show. We have a Denmark show. And I have a theory that whenever STINKFOOT is the opener, the STINKFOOT solo sets the tone for the solos, not necessarily the show, but the solos of the rest of the show. I think that plays out for the most part. It's not a 100% rule, but for the most part, it plays out for both of these shows in different and in one, I think, kind of an interesting way. Both of them are the same exact set list, which is the set list we've sort of has calcified, is ossified in this portion of the tour. However, at the end of the second of these shows, the better of these two shows, we do get a short little Miss Pinky instrumental jam. We don't get the sort of mini epic, really ferocious solos that we got earlier in the tour, but we do get the return of Miss Pinky. And in the encores for both of these, we get a Dinah, we get a Camarillo Man, and we get a Slime Berdino. So we get the same set of encores. But other than that, those are the songs we get in both shows. First show, February 20th, 1976. It's from Hamburg. The lesser of the two, mainly because the sound is a lot rougher. It's a lot more distance. There are some pretty obnoxious cuts throughout it that's just kind of annoying. Some great moments, mainly brought about by the guitar solos. But for the most part, it's the harder of the two shows to just listen to straightforward just because of the sound. Both shows have a lot of secret word usage. We're still focused on the German sort of diet of sausage and carrots, things related to sausage, vomiting, just sausage world-centric type secret word usage. A lot more prevalent in the first of the two shows, the 20th, than it is in the second, but it is there in both of those. And one thing that I was like kind of thinking about, one of the things that kind of redeems the 1984 tour is the secret word usage. And I really enjoy the secret word usage in 84. It gets pretty ridiculous. It's kind of needed to get through some of the more anemic performances just because the arrangement, it was very synth heavy. The sound did not work. It's a rough listen. But I'm not actually finding that, even though the secret word usage is pretty comparable in some of these 76 shows, especially in like this middle portion of the tour, I'm finding it's not providing me as much sort of like comfort while I'm struggling through sort of listening to the same songs over and over and over again. And I realize it's because in this tour, I'm listening to the same songs over and over and over again and having the same secret words pop up in the same songs over and over again, even though they are slight deviations all the time. And it's not literally, oh, we're going to drop a sausage here every time, though it is the night of the iron sausage forever. You know, we do have the same songs kind of getting the same abuse. And it's just not as entertaining in 1984 when like one night you're getting in the whole like, He's So Gay, Keep It Greasy, Advanced Romance run. And another night you're getting in the Chana and the Bushwop, Carol, You Fool, all that kind of stuff. And so it feels like, one, the variety of secret word usage is a little more varied in 84. And so that makes it more interesting. But because the set lists are quite a bit more different, well, they are different than this, I find it just works better. So even though there is a lot of secret word usage in 76, I find that the end result is not rising the tide as much as it does in 84 and 88. And I just wanted to get that out of the way because I was trying to come to terms with why I wasn't as entertained as I am in the 80s. And I think that's why, because it's just now become a part of what these songs are. It's what I expect from Advanced Romance, Honey, Don't You Want a Man Like Me, Illinois. You just know there's going to be secret word at this point baked into it. All right, that little aside. Stinkfoot sets the tone for the first show. The solo is somewhat short, not really short, but like it's not a long Stinkfoot solo. It's like maybe your average Stinkfoot solo, but it's focused, it's concise, doesn't seem to be a lot of wasted notes. Frank seems to know what he's going to say. He gets to the point. And that's what a lot of these solos are. And that's kind of what makes shows interesting at this point. So, Filthy Habits, Lewis is fantastic. The sound is rough, but you can tell it just sounds amazing. Frank's solo, it's kind of calm, it's kind of patient. There are intense moments, but like Stinkfoot, it really seems a little bit restrained and held back, and like we're not going to just like take too many chances, but we're still going to deliver. And the first part is probably better than the breakdown. When they go into the breakdown, Frank kind of keeps it pretty short and simple this time. So I think the first half of the solo wins in this Filthy Habits. But it's a strong, strong Filthy Habits, even though the sound is rough. Black Napkins, sax solo is pretty good sound-wise. You can kind of hear it. The solo, again, kind of feels a little bit like Stinkfoot. It's restrained. This one's a little more fragmented. Frank starts playing with like the voltage controlled filter. He did some weird little runs that are kind of trippy psyche for a while. But the whole thing, it just feels kind of unsteady. It feels kind of fragmented. There's a cut towards the end that's kind of rough. And when we come back in, I think we drop into like an Andre in the middle of Advanced Romance. So we're missing a portion of the show. But yeah, the Black Napkins, this is the first one where Frank just feels a little off and feels like he can't really find that Black Napkins pocket. But it's still interesting because in searching for that groove, he does some interesting stuff. But I don't think it quite delivers. Advanced Romance is fantastic. Andre is fantastic. Oh, no, we do get the hold one. He's singing in the middle of his solo. There's a little back and forth where he's like singing Champagne or something like that. Alka-Seltzer. The Bozio-Lewis connection is awesome. And Frank's solo is also just awesome. It's long. It's aggressive at times, but it seems a little more even keel. It's engaging in a different way and not just this sort of like epic pounding that the Advanced Romances usually have. Really good Advanced Romance solo. Illinois Enema Bandit, this is for both of these performances. This is a 4.5 minute intro. The next one is a 5 minute intro. I'm really having a hard time with these intros. Like, there's a certain amount of glee that Frank takes in describing the Illinois Enema Bandit. And I don't like it. I understand he's trying to make a point about a lot of things and yeah. But sometimes you can try to be funny and you just fail. And I think he just fails here. And in the second show in particular, it almost seems that by the end of his little 5 minute rant, he feels that the audience is not connecting with him and is a little uncomfortable. And he kind of rushes the ending of it in a weird way. And maybe that's just me wishing he would just end it sooner. But I'm having a hard time with these. These are really like, I'm to the point where I'm like, this has to be ranked lower than 77 just because 77 doesn't have these. And these really hurt this part of the show for me. But the solo is pretty cool. It's thoughtful, it's patient, does not sound like an Illinois Enema Bandit solo, so that kind of redeems it. And like the ultimate question I'm having about this tour is like, on the one hand, we have these 5 minute intros for Illinois Enema Bandit, but on the other hand, we have these amazing solos in Illinois Enema Bandit. This is a weird tour. Wind up trying the torture, very focused, but also very fragmented. I think he quotes something else at some point. It's got a nice vibe, but it's similar to the Stinkfoot solo. It's concise, it's kind of urgent, but it also feels somewhat restrained. Chungas, we get a cut at torture. We miss a bunch of it. Then we're in the middle of Chungas with the sax solo, the weird spacey weirdness that is getting sparser and longer, and bass players get more time to do operatic silliness. Then we get a great Lewis solo. That's another winner. Then we get a drum solo. Oh no, we cut at some point into Zoodalures. We're in the Zoodalure solo. Another fantastic Zoodalure solo. It's funky. It feels like a more traditional Zoodalure solo at times where he's just kind of, poking out into different areas while the rhythm stays pretty restrained. We get a nice ship ahoy. We get what feels like some almost droney Middle Eastern vibes at some point in here. We get a filthy Dween type thing. And then the thing just starts to groove and take off and everybody locks in and we get this whole entirely new jam for a while that feels like a different song. And then we get a pretty nice ship ahoy. It's not epic, but it's definitely longer than some of the ones from the more recent shows where Frank feels like he's a little bit bored. But I don't know. The sound is rough. Probably the best moment is Advanced Romance. If it was to be released officially, I would probably absolutely love it because still Frank is being Frank. But I do feel like he never really found that vibe in most of the solos, and they all stayed kind of like restrained, but in like almost like a tired way, or just like hey, let's try something new kind of way and not really push the envelope too much. I don't know. Interesting show. The second show is kind of low-key fascinating because something happens in Stinkfoot that almost makes it seem like Stinkfoot really does cast a spell over the show. So Frank is soloing in Stinkfoot for maybe a minute, maybe over a minute, when something happens with his guitar. He says, whoa, wait a minute. Turn off that heat lamp, wait a minute. And then the band just vamps for minute and a half while Frank fixes his guitar problems. Doesn't pick up the solo, goes into a really long poodle lecture. That's getting longer too. But the Stinkfoot solo never really ends. It doesn't really reach any sort of climax. Filthy Habits. Andre kills it. His solo is awesome. The Bozio-Andre connection, amazing. Frank comes in slowly, patiently, kind of builds stuff. Doesn't really get evil or menacing, but he's just kind of playing around for a while. He kind of starts to build some sort of frantic energy towards the end. And yes, we get a little tape problem here where it kind of fades out and we return in the opening theme. Every 30 minutes, there's going to be this tape splice. And so I don't know how the song really ends, but the solo almost feels like it didn't get a chance to finish. Like Frank was just going and looking for an ending and didn't have one, and so he just stopped it. And so that's similar to Stinkfoot because Stinkfoot did not finish. Andre wins this Filthy Habits, but it's pretty interesting, I think. Black Napkins. Frank gives a speech about loving yourself, which is awesome. And then we get an awesome Andre solo. Not Andre solo, Napoleon sax solo. And then Frank comes in, kind of slow, some nice interesting runs, kind of turns up the heat, but not too extreme, just a little bit. Gets a little bit kind of proggy, weird, almost King Crimson-y, Middle Eastern for a brief little while, but never really achieves a full boil. Never really seems to find like that final conclusive statement that he wants to make. And then he ends it. Kind of like Stinkfoot. It kind of feels like it doesn't have a proper ending. Advanced Romance is maybe the highlight of the show. Advanced Romance is fantastic. Andre solo is fantastic. Frank solo, which is kind of subdued, kind of weird, kind of off-kiltered. It just doesn't feel like Advanced Romance. He's got a much thinner tone. It's pretty even keel. I always find that in the Advanced Romance solos, he's just like attacking. It's just really aggressive, really going at it, going after you. Like every time that vamp cycles through, he's got another attack. He's attacking here, but it's like a Cold War. It's through like espionage, and it's more low key. It's consistent and persistent, but it's definitely not that hit you over the head type stuff. Really interesting solo, both Andre and Frank. And this is one, if we ever do get like another 76 box set or something and they have this on tape, like give us this Advanced Romance. This song is killing it on this tour. Illinois Enema Bandit, 5 minutes. He makes a comment. At one point, I think he has a doll or he has some sort of device, and I'm pretty sure it's the bass player who comes over and starts making talking noises and like pretending to be a female, as he sometimes does when he has that doll. And Frank says, no, 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 go away. You'll get arrested later. Which I'm just going to leave that there. Frank is like The Simpsons. He can see the future. Really good, bluesy, kind of shredding Illinois Enema Bandit solo. Pretty, by far, the most aggressive solo yet in the show, but still kind of focused. Kind of Peters. At the end, when he ends the solo, it just kind of ends, and they vamp for a while, and then we go into the second half of the song. Like, they botch it up, which, in a way, even though the solo feels like it, like, goes somewhere, the fact that they botch up the ending and can't make a smooth segue back into Illinois, that's just like Stinkfoot. Stinkfoot casts a spell over the shows. Torture solo is fantastic. Everything about the Torture is fantastic. His solo, we get some vocal silliness early on. They're being very playful. The whole thing is playful, both musically, both vocally. The solo has a nice long sort of fooling around with the VCF early, then it gets spacey, then it gets weird, then we go normal, then we get some high energy, then he starts to attack, then he quotes, getting to know you, and then he plays around with like a getting to know you motif for a while. I think there's a second song that he quotes, but I'm not exactly sure what it is. He plays down with that, and then he kind of wraps it up and goes into the second half of the song. By far the most unique, different solo of this show. It reminds me of Johnny Can't Read off Shut Up and Play Your Guitar. It's not as great as that. That is a great solo. But that solo is like, let's do this for a while, and let's do this for a while, and let's do this for a while, and then maybe connect these two and do this for a while. That's kind of what this Torture feels like. It's all over the map, but it's really fun. Chungas. Oh, before he plays Chungas, he goes, meanwhile, back in the jungle, a song from Stranded in the Jungle, which he would cover on the following tour. Frank can see the future, people. Sax solo sounds kind of cool. Great, just the rhythm, the bass player in Bozier lock into this rhythm for Napoleon sax solo that is fantastic. Gets dizzy, psyche weird for a while. Absolutely love it. The middle section's getting longer and longer and longer. It's almost like a weird secret word, like a weird mystery word jam, which is the bass player leading it. Andre's solo is just like absolutely amazing. I mean, Andre is killing it. Andre is trying to make a case for MVP of this tour. He's making a good case. They go into this like driving jam that almost sounds like a Deep Purple jam. Absolutely fantastic. Then we get a Zoodalure. We get drums. Then we get Zoodalures. Every once in a while you get a tape, an audience tape, in which that feedback and that sustain and like the head, the main theme of Zoodalures, just sounds more magical and beautiful and mysterious than ever. This is one of those tapes where every time he sustains those notes or that feedback comes back, it just Zoodalures, just dancing around. This solo is very upbeat, kind of skippy, kind of happy. And it really almost feels like every other solo in this show, the Stinkfoot solo, I mean, name them, I've talked about them, are actually sourced from Zoodalures. When he starts going into this sort of calm, focused, upbeat, not too like aggressive solo in Zoodalures after he plays the theme, it makes sense of every other solo that precedes it. It's just like, oh, Zoodalures was the inspiration tonight for the solos. Like he just focused in on that energy and brought that to every other song. And when he drops into the Zoodalures solo, it just feels like purposeful. Like it feels like this was all intended from the beginning and we're like getting resolution to the entire show. And it just, I don't know, it makes me feel like I'm at home. There's something really powerful about the collective body of work that these solos are presenting. Then we get a Ship Ahoy, Frank's nice and engaged, and then we get a Miss Pinky Jam. We don't get a really long solo like we did earlier, but we get a Miss Pinky Jam. Then we get a Dinah, Camarillo Muffin, Slime Bernardino. The audio gets kind of bad for San Bernardino for some reason, but really fascinating show, interesting vibes, kind of calm, but also kind of strange. Where would I rank these two among all the others that I've done, which at this point is 19 total? I have the 21st, the second show, the one I just talked about, the one that wraps it all up in Zoodalures. I have that at number 7, right below the officially released one. And then the first of the two shows, the 20th, drops way down to 15. Not a bad show, but a lot of rough cuts that are frustrating. And the sound is rough. Yeah. All right. That's all I got. These two shows were fascinating. I'm kind of getting to that point where I'm like, I'm ready for another tour. I'm ready to move on. But then I listen to these two shows and I'm like, okay, I'm glad I heard these two shows. Frank is still kind of pushing the envelope on a nightly basis, and at least on guitar, doing some really fascinating things. All right, I'm done. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment, do those things. Peace. Talk to you later.